Here's what we'll do. So you mentioned there's plenty of rankings out there. So like this is, I guess, our just way of coming at rankings from a different angle. We'll do a draft. We'll switch off. No contracts.
No contracts.
I don't want to get into then start to factor that stuff in. Yeah,
these guys can all buy a new Jeep. That's all we know.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't have time to be splitting hairs about these guys' bank accounts. All right, should we? Here's my question for you. Do you want to project beyond 2024? You just want to do just one season, 2024 season?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, season preview show. Sure.
So this is drafting guys for just this year.
Yeah. Yeah, you are. You're the road team. You're battling the adversity. I will give you the first pick.
Oh, what a gentleman!
I know.
I mean, I gotta go Mahomes, right? So Patrick Mahomes. You know how Mahomes is the guy aside from the 3 Super Bowls rings.
There's a compelling amount of evidence, but go ahead.
But like, not even the nerds can formulate an argument against him. Like you read some of these like rankings or like you do. Even if you go to like try to really go under the hood or look at websites that skew very, very analytically heavy, even they're just like, well, it's Patrick Mahomes, so like we'll put that there and then we'll kind of move on.
Pro Football Focus did their rankings for all 32 starters before the season. I don't know when they published this. Let's see here. I could probably find this easily. May. They published this in May. They have tier number 1 is just Mahomes. Mahomes is ranked number 1. 2023 wasn't his best year by the numbers, but after back-to-back Super Bowls with one of his least talented supporting cast, we're not even going to entertain overthinking this one. Like that pretty much, yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
So my flaw was giving you the number 1 pick because I do think as soon as you get to number 2, the conversation gets muddy and it starts talking about like the factors that we hit on already. I have no idea where I want to go here. I think I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson, though. I think the growth that we kind of talked about earlier as a passer, given the fact that he's got game-changing athletic ability where it's a play is never dead with him. Like he is – we saw this at, 2 or 3, 4, 5, however many years ago with Mahomes where he was really, elusive between injuries and age and things like that. He doesn't necessarily have that anymore. Lamar still does. So even on a game where he isn't throwing the ball as well as, maybe you'd like him to throw it, he can still tuck it and run. Again, I don't have to deal with the injury thing as much because we're only doing this for 1 year. So I like him and just hope that he can make the throws. That kind of comes and goes. There are issues, if you want to call it that, with his big game performances, but I'll just take the statistical evidence points to this guy being super, super solid for 17 straight weeks. So
he's like kind of the guy I had in mind when I talked about like winning at a consistently high level, not necessarily it being Super Bowls. Because his regular season winning percentage is like Tom Brady-esque. You know what I mean? Like, and once you get into the playoffs, like that's when some other factors start to creep in, and that's when you see like the whole some of the parts, come about. And like, I mean, a guy we'll probably talk about here at some point, Josh Allen, like what he did in that playoff game against the Chiefs last year. It's like, how do you blame him for defensive shortcomings? Whatever. So like that's when the other variables become involved. But I think I'm with you on Lamar for being 2. I was thinking about this, like. I don't want to call him underrated because, like, I don't know how you be a 2-time MVP and you're underrated. I think everybody acknowledges how good he is, but, like, I'm looking at, like, the MVP odds and him sitting there at 15-1 behind Mahomes.
We had this conversation, like, a month ago. It's the same exact thing. It's just...
Like, but he's behind C.J. Stroud at 10-1, Jordan Love 14-1, Joe Burrow 10. Like, this guy's won MVPs, multiple MVPs, and he's sitting at 15-1. Like, I don't know. No, I don't want to give anything away, but I might be looking towards that when we do our AFC preview. All right, number 3, I'm going to go. This is where the conversation gets tricky again. I'm going Joe Burrow, though. I think the injuries last year kind of make us forget just how elite he is.
Is he elite? No. Like
Oh, I think he's elite.
Am I playing? I think I might just be overdoing it with devil's advocate, where it's just like, I don't know. I get, yeah. I mean, they went to the Super Bowl like 2 or 3 years ago. All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, he's deadly accurate, and there's obviously the clutch factor. Like, he's never been bad.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean. Like, if you're any doubts you have about him are related to the injuries, right? Like, you count on one hand probably the number of bad games he's had since he's been in the NFL. So I think this year he's set up to. I think he might be number 2 by the time next year rolls around. But yeah, it's this 2 to 4 window is tricky because I think there's a clear trio of guys. But I'm giving Burrow the slight nod here.
Again, gets tricky here. I guess in hindsight, yeah, I would probably do, even though my natural inclination was to push back there, I guess I would probably do the same thing because of what happens after that. I guess I have to take Josh Allen here. I don't love it because if I'm projecting ahead, honestly, I think, as a spoiler alert for next week with our AFC preview, if that's what we're doing, like, I don't know, Buffalo, I feel like is maybe not missed their window, but it's closed a lot faster than maybe we kind of expected or they would have hoped. I look at Josh Allen, I just think he's imperfect. Maybe, I don't know. Are we taking him for granted at this point in his career? The numbers, to your point, are more or less through the roof. I think he, more so than a lot of the guys on whatever comes of this list, have been done dirty, for lack of a better term, by their supporting cast. Like, you look at what they have up there, it's like, I don't know. Like, they've gone through offensive coordinators, but I am looking at, I was looking at the ESPN.com. They did their top 10 ranking of quarterbacks, was talking to players, execs, something like whatever it was. One AFC exec said he leaves you wanting more a little bit. I was like, I kind of get that, even though I can't totally articulate why. I thought this was an even more interesting observation from the actual whoever wrote the story, saying Allen is a Luka Doncic level volume scorer, and I was like, hell yeah! Like, that makes all the sense in the world. Like, the numbers are going to be there, but it's just, can he do it on his own? Does he need help? The talent is undeniable. I think in the same way that Lamar has evolved over the course of his career, you look at what Josh Allen was early in his career, and he's been MVP level since then. The day ball factor is there too. I don't know how much of it was, the system. This is where it gets dicey trying to make these evaluations. So I would go Josh Allen here at 4, but I don't love it. But it also feels too early to kind of start diving into the guys that we're projecting who are going to make big steps this year. So I'll go Josh Allen at 4 and be like, well, I guess this is what I am. So what do you got? Let's go ahead.
I love the Luka Doncic comparison because, like, both guys are, like you said, the volume is there. Nobody is doubting that, like, they're the talent level. In their case, the ability to make guys on their team better. But each one has a fatal flaw, right? Like, for Luka, it's on the defensive end. For Josh Allen, it's the turnovers. And, like,
the decision making.
Those things are ultimately what could prevent you from you reaching your ceiling and your team reaching that ceiling. And I think I have that concern about Allen more so than the 3 ahead of him.
And they're both, like, Luka and Allen are guys, like, I'd buy tickets to go watch them play, but I don't know if I'd feel great about trying to win a Super Bowl if they're, my guy. So, but he's the talent is too much to turn up. So he actually had somebody gave him a number 1 ranking in this ESPN thing. So interesting. What's your who's your number? What's up at number 5? I guess your third pick.
So there's the clear 4, right? Like, that's tier 1.
Yeah, I think so.
And then after that, this is where the parameters of this exercise come into play. If it's like, I know we're doing for this season, but this is where if you started factoring in, like, hey, projecting 5 years, 10 years, whatever down the road. All right, number 5. I'm gonna go with Dak Prescott.
That would have been my pick too, I think. Yeah.
I look back at those. Was it C.J. Stroud that recently had his quarterback rankings? He kind of took a lot of flack for it on whatever podcast he was on, and he included Dak. And I feel like a lot of people push back on that aspect of his rankings. The bigger issue for me was him including himself and Jalen Hurts. Yeah. Like, the Dak thing didn't even really register. I'm like, yeah, sure. Even if you don't think he's a top 5, I think you can very easily make the argument. So, I mean, with Dak, obviously, it's the inability to finish in the big game once he gets to the playoffs. But, like, I don't know, man. 2 of the last 3 seasons were elite. And when you start to look at the next collection of guys that we're working our way into here, every one of these guys has holes or flaws or has fallen on their face or whatever. So, yeah, I think that Dak is just, I think he's better than people give him credit for.
Yeah, that's probably who I would go with there too. Now it's a 6. I guess I'm gonna go Justin Herbert. It came down to it's like Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, that neighborhood where it's, I guess you're gonna feel good about having any one of them, but are you gonna feel great? And I still think it's probably a little too early to start throwing C.J. Stroud up the list. Jordan Love even hurts. Like there's just question marks everywhere you look. So I guess I'll take Herbert here because I think any of his shortcomings are probably he's victim of his situation more so than anyone else. Like you look at the rash of injuries that they've had, you look at the just a calamity that's been that coaching staff over the course of his career. I think I can look ahead to next year and be like, he's going to be number 3 on these lists or whatever, largely because like Jim Harbaugh just completely raised the floor and it allowed him to kind of chase his ceiling a little more effectively. So I would take Herbert here, just because I'm more or less projecting that he's going to look more like his actual self of what the eye test tells me he should be when he's got a better system and a more efficient foundation around him.